Hello there. So I'm Ryan. I'm a guide working at Miyar Adventures, and I wanted to put together a little video to show clients both what we provide and give some suggestions on what to bring for our upcoming rock courses, either single day, multi-day courses, or any sort of trips we have planned. So in this specific video, I'm going to talk about what we're going to recommend for you to bring for Smith Rocks. This is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 day course. It's going to be down in Oregon, so you're probably going to be camping, and we have camping spots picked out, and I'm going to show suggestions on clothes to bring, gear for camping, climbing gear to bring, and so forth, just so that way you have a good idea of what we recommend to have while you're out there to make your stay as enjoyable as possible. Miyar isn't exactly providing any specific lodging. We will have a campsite reserved, so that way you're welcome to join us in that campsite. But ultimately, what you do when we're not out climbing on the rocks is kind of your choice. There's plenty of motels in Bend, Oregon, which is the nearest, biggest town next to Smith Rocks. Or you could always just stay hanging out with us. Same thing with food. We'll give you a recommended food supply list, but really you can go into town every day if you want, and just get food day by day if you so wish. I'm going to have some suggestions for food with you on this, but ultimately it all comes down to preference. First of all, let's start off with what Miyar Adventures provides for you, so that way you don't have to worry about bringing. I have an assortment of gear laid out here. First thing that Miyar provides for you are ropes. Any sort of climbing rope will do. If you do want to bring your own rope, then feel free. Actually, if you want to bring any of your own gear, then feel free. We could use it, or you could use it, or anything if you want to add to the pile. But Miyar will have all the ropes that we need for the course. Helmets. Miyar does provide helmets. We have a good selection in stock. A lot of them are more hard shell variety. If you don't like the hard shell, then you can go with the more lightweight shell. Again, if you have your own helmet, then feel free to use it. Just make sure that it's actually rated for climbing use, not like a bike helmet or anything like that. Miyar will also be bringing all of our cams, all of our quick draws, all the technical gear that the guides will use to get you guys up the climb, so you don't have to worry about owning any of this. Some gear that would be good for you to own are things like an ATC with 1 or 2 locking carabiners. I recommend that if you do have a locking carabiner, have something like a pear-shaped locker, not something like this D-shaped locking carabiner. And then a belay device. It doesn't matter what belay device you bring as long as it's a tubular belay device with 2 slots in it. If you want to bring your assisted braking device like a Gree or like the Black Diamond, what's this thing called again? Anyway, it's an assisted braking 1 rope device. So if you want to bring these, then feel free. Smith Rocks is a huge sport climbing area, so we will definitely use those. We won't provide any of those for you, so if you bring one, it'll have to be your own. A lot of the guides have extra ATCs with them, or other sort of belaying devices, so if you don't have one, then you can just contact us beforehand or write in the email that we have that you don't have one, and then we'll bring an extra one for you. Some equipment that would be really nice to have is just a few extra locking carabiners. It kind of doesn't matter what kind of locker they are. This one works and this one will work, but just like 2 extra locking carabiners would be really great for you to have. We can provide these through Miyar, through our store. Actually, this exact one, we sell this exact one. It's a really good carabiner. They're not that expensive, and they're just really good tools to have. So a couple extra locking carabiners. Miyar will provide all the anchor materials, so you don't exactly need to worry about any sort of slingage or anything. But one thing that would be nice for you to have is either a personal daisy chain system. This is the Black Diamond Link, I think that's what it's called. But this is actually a personal anchor system. Sorry, not a personal daisy chain system. And that's designed to hook you into the wall. Or if you just have a single double length sling. If you don't know what a double length sling is, you can also see it as 120 centimeters or 48-inch sling. It's the kind of sling that if you loop it twice over, it fits over your shoulder very well. So that'd be really good for you to have. Again, these are sort of limited, and it sort of depends on group size if we have enough of these to go around for everyone. But it's really a nice tool to have just for you on your own. I would say bare minimum of gear for you to have would be something along the lines of an ATC, 2 locking carabiners, and a double length sling. And then we'll provide all the rest. Along with that, it would be nice if you had a harness. You do want a harness rated for specific rock climbing purposes. For those of you who have been mountaineering with us and they maybe used one of our mountaineering harnesses, we have a lot more mountaineering harnesses in our rental fleet than straightforward rock climbing harnesses. So I don't know exactly how many of these we'll have available for rent at the time. But since a number of you may be coming from gyms or other situations, you probably have your own harness. And the idea is you just want a harness that's made for, that's recommended for rock climbing. There's no reason why a mountaineering harness wouldn't work on, rock terrain, but this is going to be a lot more comfortable. Mountaineering harnesses are not built for comfort. This harness is made for 5th class rock terrain and is recommended by everyone that climbs in Miyar to have. Other equipment for clients to have, belay gloves, not exactly necessary. I think that they are really nice, especially when you're doing rappels. Smith Rocks, depending on where we're climbing, has a lot of, or a good number of double rope rappels where you're rappelling for 50 meters going down to the ground. And it can help with your security as well as comfort to have some belay gloves. This is completely optional. Some of our guides don't even do belay gloves that much. I really love them. I use them all the time. So I do. I say it's a good option to have. That's what I'll say. So other than that, that's just about everything. Oh, climbing shoes. So we probably won't have any climbing shoes to rent. We do have a certain amount of them at the store right now, but they're all, 1, not that good, and 2, they'll probably be gone by the time we do our trips. So you're going to want your own pair of climbing shoes. For those of you who want to climb hard, you can bring your aggressive shoes. For those of you who are just interested in long route climbing, then you can bring your more comfortable long route shoes. Or for those of you who are interested in doing both, you can bring 2. I would recommend, if you only had to bring 1 pair of shoes, then bring the long route shoes, because using the aggressive shoes for an extended period of time is going to start hurting your feet, but that is kind of your call. And you can always bring as many pairs of shoes as you want. I'm going to bring just these 2 pairs because I like to try hard routes while I'm there as well. But just those shoes. Chalk bag is nice. So I have 2 chalk bags right here. It's just, 2 chalk bags. I'm only going to bring 1. This chalk bag has a chalk ball in it. This chalk bag has loose chalk, and I use them for different things. Loose chalk for hard climbing, and when I'm really pushing it, and a chalk ball on long routes. I've had times at Smith Rocks when I was just getting into climbing where I had a bunch of loose chalk in my chalk bag, and it was a really windy day, and all the chalk blew out. So you wanna not lose your money and your chalk all the time. So if you do plan on doing a lot of hard climbing as well as getting into some multi-pitch with our guides there, then you could bring 2 chalk bags like I have set up here, but I don't exactly recommend a whole lot of loose chalk while we're doing long routes at higher points where the wind can really blow into you. As far as backpacks go, so the guide's backpack is going to be something a bit bigger. This is a 35-liter backpack. I know some of our other guides are going to have other backpacks, maybe even bigger. This is the one that I roll with, and I can fit everything I need for the week in here, along with some other stuff. As far as clients go, since you're carrying less equipment, or maybe you're carrying less gear in your backpack, and a rope on the outside, you can go with a smaller backpack. This right here is a 30-liter backpack. It's fully, it's a backpack. You don't really need too much more than that. This one does have a skirt that goes up, so that way you can shove a bit more in here. And a lid for carrying whatever. It does also have a hydration system, I think, on it. So you can just go with whatever backpack you use for hiking or even for school or whatever. It doesn't have to be the most intense backpack out there. It doesn't have to be a specific climbing backpack. One backpack I do recommend is also having a small backpack. This one's a 20 liter, but I call this the on-route pack. Everyone calls it the on-route pack. The cool part about this one is I can crunch it down to almost nothing, and I always find a place for it inside my bigger backpack. I would recommend having maybe a more comfortable backpack than this, because this has pretty much no frame, and it can be kind of annoying when you have a bunch of stuff in there. Cool part about one of these backpacks, this is a specific climbing backpack, is you can actually take the hood off and put it inside the backpack. And 30 liters, like this size of 30 liters, when it's on your back, it doesn't really get in the way of your harness too much. So this could be not only your regular day pack, but also your on-route pack. That's something to think about. Another thing we always could do is consolidate all of our stuff for the route in one backpack, and then maybe clip our shoes on the back of our harness and only have one backpack going up the route. That's just a couple of possibilities. Either way, you want some backpack that's between, let's say, 25 and 30 liters. A little bit bigger is no problem. Maybe leave your large 65 liter backpack at home though. Even if you want, you could contact one of our guides. We all have a lot of backpacks, so we could easily lend you one for the week. That's not going to be too much of a problem for us. So now let's move on. This is all the technical gear, both of what we'll be providing and what we would like you to have. Again, there's a lot of leeway in this. I carry a bunch of extra carabiners and belay devices in my backpack in case anyone forgets anything. But this is essentially everything that we have for you. Now let's move on to clothing specific setup. This is just going to be my recommendations for what I like to use in Smith Rock, and we'll take it from there. Alright, so now let's talk about what we're going to wear at Smith Rocks. This is more or less my recommendations. Keep in mind that everyone's different. Girls tend to get a lot colder than guys, so you may want some more insulative clothing, but this is what works for me at Smith. Keep in mind that we're going to be on there in May and October for most of our trips. There may be some trips in the summer where we just sort of shed out some of the more warmer clothing, but mostly we're going to be there around temperatures in the high 50s or mid to high 50s, and then getting down lower. And it is pretty easy to have cold spats in the night because this is the desert. So sometimes you can be waking up in 20 or 30 degree temperatures. And so let's just move straight into what I'd be wearing on my body. Let's start that off with the boxers, actually. So this is actually kind of overlooked quite a bit. Having a nice synthetic pair of underwear or some form of, or just something other than cotton, because you will be sweating out there and that can cause some problems. For guys, you can bring, like, if you're going bare minimum, you can bring 1 to 2 pairs of underwear for 4 or 5 days out there. Ladies, you're probably going to want something along 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. As far as pants go, I have a nice pair of synthetic pants. These are made by Outdoor Research. They're the Feroci pants. They're designed for climbing. One thing I like about these pants is the pocket right here on the leg. It's actually looks like this, and it sits underneath your harness, so I can put my phone in my pocket and keep it there for whatever I need. Another feature I do like about these pants is the cuff. You can roll this up to below your knee and then tighten it there, and it'll stay like that. So you can effectively turn your pants into a pair of shorts on the really hot part of the day or if the sun comes out, as well as they are just like a really lightweight pair of pants. So any sort of active pants are gonna do. You wanna, like, you can even get away with jeans. Rock climbing, you know, there's not too many performance thresholds for your clothing, but you do want something that's gonna allow you to move pretty well. As far as the shirt goes, I just have a synthetic shirt right here. This is the Echo shirt, yeah, Outdoor Research Echo shirt. It's really lightweight, so it'll take sweat really well and just sort of act as a good base layer to keep me protected from the sun and then cool throughout the day. One thing I am a fan of while climbing is a collared shirt, and I tend to do this a lot in the sun. I actually have other shirts that are a bit thinner than this, but this is just a buttoned up collared shirt, and it's short sleeve, and it helps keep the sun off my neck from the collar protecting it, as well as it just seems to be what I prefer the most. So you'll probably see me out there in a lot of these. Obviously a pair of socks. Any socks, work. Some of the more cotton socks tend to get holes in them, or at least I tend to get holes in them. If you use socks made by Darn Tough or any sort of hiking brand, these are REI socks. I actually kind of don't like these because I think the REI socks I've tried, they tend to just capture sweat and leave it there. So I, ironically enough, won't recommend these socks, but any sort of hiking sock will do. Running socks also, I really do like runner's socks. I'm wearing them right now. Those work really great when hiking around. Pair of shorts, I always bring one along. If it's just warm enough that it's short weather, you may even consider bringing a pair of shorts with you and change into them halfway through the day. Maybe pants in the morning when it's chilly, and then shorts, when it warms up. And then we move into a layering system. And I got a lot of jackets here, but you don't really need too many jackets to layer for climbing, rock climbing that is. For those of you who have been on a mountaineer's course, this is, a lot more easygoing. So what I have here is my first layer. I have this in a lot of my videos. I think this is called the transition. It's a wool layer. It has a grid pattern fleece. Sorry, it's not wool, it's fleece. But it has grid pattern fleece all over it, so it actually keeps you pretty warm for the garment that it is. Only problem is wind kind of cuts right through it. So in order to counteract that, I put this coat over it. This is the Feroci jacket. These two coats pretty much make up the starting point of all my layering systems I have. And that's because it's just such a good combination I found of this thing under this. And what this is just a straight up soft shell jacket. Not too many bells and whistles, and it just sort of acts as more of a break from the wind. It doesn't provide too huge amount of insulation, but it is really good for a windbreak. And so that's why I pair these two together. And then when it is over this one, it does add a decent amount of insulation. Now probably the heaviest coat I'll have with me is this jacket right here. This makes up the final part of my three jacket layering system. This is the Uber Layer jacket from Outdoor Research as well. Very high amount of insulation for this size piece that it is, especially when you put these two jackets under it. And this synthetic layer is probably all I'll need. And this is technically a insulative jacket. You can read about the specs online, but it has insulation all over it. Synthetic insulation. Now, I have been at Smith Rocks a number of days in a row where it is really cold. Like I wake up in the 20s or something like that. And so what I do is I immediately put on a bunch of jackets, In that case, it would be really nice to have a puffy jacket. If you don't have a synthetic jacket and you do have a puffy, then don't bother buying a synthetic, just work with the puffy here. But it doesn't have to be anything more than what it is. You don't have to go into like the treated down or whatever. Just like the simplest, cheapest puffy jacket you can possibly have will do the job. And it wouldn't be bad maybe just to keep in your car, just in case we do have a little bit of a cold spurt while we're out there. Another thing that can happen at any point all the time is rain. And so what I have here is a really lightweight raincoat. It could also work as a wind layer if I need it to. This thing packs down to nothing. This is the OR Helium 2. And like I said, it just packs down to a super small amount, so it'll fit anywhere in your backpack. And it's just a good layer to put over any sort of, or put on whenever there's wind or rain. I really like putting the first coat I talked about underneath that one. And then that adds just a little bit of insulation to this straight up rain and wind shell. And we're probably, if it's raining, we're not going to be climbing. It's just one of those things you can't do in the rain. If you're alpine, out there in the alpine world you can get away with that, but rock climbing just doesn't work. So if it rains at all for a decent amount of time, we'll probably just head back to the car and find a more dry area. There are a couple places where you can climb in the rain in Smith Rock, so we'll probably head over there. But we're not going to be out there trying to get to the top of a climb when it's downpouring on us. Regular sun protection. I have just a typical hat right here, sun hat. Doesn't have to be anything too special. Nice brim to keep the sun out of your eyes. And then if you pair that with a good pair of sunglasses, then you're good to go. So you can wear sunglasses at any point while you're climbing or anything. It doesn't really make too much of a difference to climb with sunglasses on, but those are a good layering system to have while you're doing your while you're just going throughout the day. Another thing to consider when you're actually out with on the rock is a good pair of approach shoes. And what these are is they have sticky rubber on the bottom. This actually has vibrant rubber on the bottom, and actually some of them you can see how it has a ridge right here. That's meant so that way you can climb in them better. And it's the same kind of rubber that you find on climbing shoes, and so it really adds a great level of safety for everyone if they have a pair of approach shoes. If you are a trail runner or a runner in general, you can buy a pair of trail running shoes, and they have the same sort of rubber on the bottom. It's important to have trail running shoes, not street running shoes, because street running shoes are more not as abrasive against the rocks. So, and they're also made with different rubber, so they don't really stick as well. You want a pair of shoes that are made for trail running on rocks and stuff, or just get a pair of approach shoes, and then you'll see how that really increases everyone's safety, as well as it allows us to take a couple of approaches that we wouldn't normally do with someone with less secure footing. And so that could actually save us time throughout the day and allow us to climb more. So those are a couple of pros and cons. I don't exactly say, like, you're not going to be kicked out if you don't have a pair of approach shoes, but it does help provide safety for everyone. And if you don't like big bills, then $90 for a pair of approach shoes is way better than, a $250 bill from the ER with your twisted ankle. So that's just a little bit. Now let's talk about specific camping items that would be good if you are planning to stay with us at the campsite. So first things first is you're going to need some sort of sleeping bag. I got one right here. You don't really need any performance thresholds for the sleeping bag. Just about any sleeping bag will do. One thing I would stay away from is like the, I call them Target sleeping bags, which are kind of just like really cheap 20 or 40 degree sleeping bags. They aren't really that useful. You want like at least a real sleeping bag, something along the at least 30 degrees or so. It can be synthetic or down, doesn't really matter. It doesn't even have to pack that well. Anything's good. If you do have one of those Target sleeping bags, or maybe you're worried about the heat, one thing that'll save a little bit of money is you just get a sleeping bag liner. They have these rated for a couple different degrees. I think one goes 10 degrees. I want to say this is a 20 degree liner, and it's just basically another sleeping bag that you put in your sleeping bag that adds a little bit of insulation and warmth. So if you are worried about being cold, you can get one of these instead of a new sleeping bag. Along with the sleeping bag, you also have a sleeping pad. I have two right here, really packable inflatable pad. This is the Thermarest NeoAir X Lite, and then I also have the Thermarest Z Lite. This is the full body version. It doesn't really matter what sleeping pad you go with, you just want something to insulate you from the ground. I tend to go with this one when I'm just carb camping, like during the Smith Rocks trip, because I kind of don't like blowing these things up, and it also helps my expensive blow-up sleeping pad last a bit longer. But that is all your preference. If you have one or the other, it doesn't matter what you do. You could even bring a couple towels and just lay on that. I've done that before. A little less comfortable though. Tents will be provided by Miyar. Actually, we do have sleeping bags and sleeping bag pads for rent, so you can get them from Miyar if you don't own your own. As well as tents, we will have tents for you. I think we have a large selection of 3-person tents and a couple of 2-person tents as well. So if you don't have a tent, then don't worry, we got you covered. Or any of the sleep kit, really, we got you covered on that. If you do want to bring your own tent, any tent will do. It could be from Target if you want, like that $30 tent that they have. But just as long as you have something to put over your head. Who knows, maybe if it's super nice, maybe I'll just end up cowboy camping and just sleep under the stars, because I kind of like doing that. Headlamp, if you've been part of any of our mountaineering trips, we're very specific about the headlamp. We say something like you have to have at least 200 lumens with your headlamp. We're not going to do, during this rock climbing trip, we're not going to have any pre-dawn starts, and we're probably not going to be walking back to our camp in the dark. So you will only really need a headlamp during camping and those late night bathroom trips and whatnot. So it doesn't really matter what headlamp you have, just as long as it works, has fresh-ish batteries. Don't go out and get completely new ones, because you can always use your phone light. That's like the level we're at, you know, nothing exactly out there, but you do want to have some sort of light just to use for whatever reason. So any sort of headlamp will do. You can buy a really cheap 80 lumen headlamp, $150 150 lumen headlamp. Anything will do. Medical kits, I got a couple right here. All the instructors and guides will have medical kits for you. If you want to bring your own personal medical kit to have in your backpack, then you can feel free to do that. One thing I will say is if you have any personal medications, and this can be any prescribed medication or any just off the shelf sort of drug, we want you to bring that for yourself and take it for yourself. We run into some legal issues if we technically administer the drug to you, because none of us are doctors. I personally can administer, or I can assist with a couple of life-saving drugs like EpiPen, nitroglycerin, or any sort of, I can administer sort of aspirin or any albuterol, but that's just me personally. So a lot of our guides, with the level of training we have, we can't give you anything really. You have to bring it all for yourself and administer it yourself. So that's just something to keep in mind. In these medical kits, these are just adventure medical kits. I like these ones a lot. We sell a couple at the store. We sell, I think, the 0.5 and the 0.7. This is the 3 and the 9. Actually, I think we sell the 3 too. This is the most, this is the smallest medical kit you can get, and it's probably the smallest useful medical kit you can get. This one's the more intense one, but it, again, just has a bunch of sort of what they say in the field, they call it boo-boo ouch sort of stuff. So Band-Aids, moleskin, some medical tape, which will also have climbing tape that it's very good for. Sting relief, some sort of blisters, maybe a little bit of tweezers. Nothing that intense, really. That's enough on medical stuff. Moving on to stoves. So Miyar has a two boiler Coleman stove, the really big one, that we'll probably end up bringing out with us if it didn't get taken away on some other trips. If you want to bring your own personal stove, that's perfectly fine. Pretty much anything works. I have a couple things I laid out here. Here's your standard jet boil, which is very good system, very efficient. Here's a little cooking kit that I personally made with, again, a little 4-ounce propane canister. Here's my stove, and a sponge, and a lighter. It's good to have a lighter with you for anything under the sun, really. And then I have a pot. So you can pretty much bring whatever you want as long as you have that sort of setup. Another thing we'll do is that we'll provide fuel for you, or fuel with our particular stoves that we bring. If you bring your own stove, you could probably get away with stealing one of our canisters here and there, but I would also say you're going to want to bring your own stove with you.